Now, I don't have to tell anybody that fall is coming on Friday, September the 25th. We can kind of see it all around because, for the most part, the leaves are beginning to change colors. And I think it's, maybe some of us have to go back a number of years to remember why the leaves change color. Well, the leaves are what produce food for trees. So the roots receive the water, and eventually they go up to the leaves, and then the leaves, by virtue of what's called photosynthesis, take the carbon that's in the air and then mix it with the water, and with the sunlight it becomes glucose, sugar or food for the tree, and ultimately oxygen so that we can breathe. Now, what's also necessary for photosynthesis to happen is chlorophyll. And so that's what gives the leaves their green color. Now, with the declining amount of sunlight and the lack of precipitation in winter coming, and everything's frozen, so the trees are shutting down. So they have enough food to get them through the winter and preparing for spring. So therefore, they don't need to make food, and therefore they don't need the leaves anymore. Now, as the chlorophyll leaves the leaf, it turns into its natural color. So we have the yellows, we have the oranges, we have the red in some cases. And so even though in the coldness and also the lack of precipitation, the leaves reveal their beautiful colors. Likewise for us, even when we serve others, we reveal the brilliance of Jesus who lives in us. Now, for today and last week's gospel, we encountered the two prediction sayings of Jesus. Now, there's a third one that comes down the road. I think what's interesting is that Jesus provokes two questions in his disciples. Well, last week he asked his disciples, "Who do people say that I am? And who do you say that I am?" It is Peter who says, "You are the Son of God, the Messiah." Now, in the meantime, between the first prediction and the second prediction, Jesus transfigures himself on Mount Tabor, and also he heals a boy with a demon. What's happening with Jesus is that he is physically moving from the north part of Galilee, his ministry, and eventually he's going down to Jerusalem to lay down his life, to be killed, and then on the third day to rise again. So after the transfiguration, when he reveals his divinity before them and heals this boy with a demon, he tells his disciples the second time, "I'm going to die, and I will rise again." And for most of us, whenever we hear bad news of someone among us who's very, very ill or going to die imminently, we want to comfort them, but not the disciples. So Jesus asked him a second question this week. Last week, "Who do you say that I am?" And so Jesus asked them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" And they confided in him. We talked about who's the greatest among us, because they realize Jesus is a significant guy, and if he's going to die, well, someone's going to take over. And now they begin jockeying for position about who's going to do all the great things that Jesus himself is doing. But the brilliance of Jesus is that he uses not only words, but he uses parables, so he uses verbal illustrations and even physical illustrations to reveal what it means to be a true follower of Jesus. He says that if you want to be great, you have to be the least and servant of all. And what does that look like? Well, he brings a little child into the midst. And he says, "Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me." Now, all of us love children because they're adorable, and they want to learn so much and inquisitive, and they reveal a lot to us about who we are as well. But I think even from a more profound perspective is, what do children actually offer us? They offer us very little. Maybe a little obedience, a little consolation, but for the most part, they depend upon us for everything: food, shelter, education, love, everything. What do we get in return? Maybe in the future they're going to look after us in our old age. But for the most part, in the moment, children provide nothing. And I think that's what Jesus is saying, is that they ask something from us. I think it's a call to service. Hey, to have children is not an easy task, not by any stretch of the imagination, because they ask things from us. And I think if one is truly a servant, it is one who lays down one's life for another. I mean, isn't that the context of the whole of the Gospels? Is Jesus saying, "I'm going to model for you what it means to be least and servant of all." I think even more profoundly, who are the ones who ask things from us? Now, another wonderful illustration of Jesus is Matthew 25, the judgment of the world, is when he separates the goats from the sheep. He says, when you do to the least of my brothers and sisters, inasmuch as he has a child in his lap in today's gospel, you did it to me. And he has six groups of people whom he identifies himself with. The ones who ask of things. The stranger, the naked, the sick, the hungry, the thirsty, and the stranger. He did the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, he did it to me. And really, if we serve these kind of individuals, do we really get anything in return? No. Just as when little children, what do they give to us? Not a whole lot. Or even when people say they receive a new child, for instance, or there's an unexpected pregnancy, it's another mouth to feed. I think Jesus ultimately is saying all of us want to be great. The disciples want to be great. They want to be number one. And all of us desire not just to be okay or good, but great. Well, how are we going to do it? Well, it's to follow the example of Jesus, who came to lay down his life. And in the midst of truly reveal the brilliance of Jesus, the brilliance of God who wants to form a human family. I think this week for us is to say, well, who in my life needs to be served? Who in my life asks of things, and I will not get anything in return for that? I think it's really the model of the Christian. He's the one who lays down one's life, agape, to love another for the other's sake without receiving anything in return. I mean, ultimately for us, as we said in our responsorial song, the Lord upholds my life forever. Well, all is gift, all is grace. And the way that we can repay God for the free gift of his love is to share it freely in return. And it's not easy. Hey, I'm a stingy guy. I want to be very pragmatic in how much I give. But I think we realize how gratuitous and how generous God is. Well, we really want to model our lives on Jesus and the Father and the Spirit, which would be just as gracious. Maybe just a little bit more charity, I think, would go a long way to revealing the brilliance of Jesus in our own destiny. And so as we prepare for fall, we know we can see that fall is coming because the leaves are beginning to change color. But even as the trees begin to die, the leaves reveal their beautiful colors. And so this week, let us think about the ways that we can die to ourselves, to truly be of service, because all of us desire to be great. And so let's think about the ways that we can lay down our lives to serve others, and in turn reveal the brilliance of our own lives and the brilliance of Jesus in the world.